Hello and welcome to Granada Reports. We are live with the latest across the northwest.
Thanks for joining us. Here's what's on the programme this Monday evening.
Exactly 18 years on from the killing of teenager Jesse James, a special report on a cycle of trauma that Manchester's Moss Side is desperately trying to break. The families and friends of those lost to violence share their stories.
My niece rang me and she said he's in hospital, they're trying to work on him. And I got another call. I knew it. She said he's gone.
As the families of her victims prepare for a public inquiry, Lucy Letby's new lawyer tonight claims there is a strong case that the nurse is innocent.
Out of Lime Street Station came Ron Yates and his jubilant teammates. The skipper carried the cup.
Goodbye to the Colossus. We look back at the life of Liverpool legend Ron Yates, who's died at the age of 86.
And the Starlings weren't too impressed by the weather forecast this morning, but things did brighten up. However, it's all downhill with an Arctic blast for the next couple of days. Full details coming up.
We start tonight with a community desperately trying to break free from a cycle of trauma and grief.
Like anywhere else, Moss Side in Manchester has changed over the past 2 decades, but young people are still losing their lives on its streets.
Exactly 18 years ago today, Jesse James was shot dead in a park in Moss Side. He was just 15 years old. His killer has never been traced.
His death shook the community, but since then, more families have found themselves dealing with that same despair, many still without answers or justice.
Our reporter Tasha Kachiri has been speaking to those affected most deeply by the violence in this special report.
How important was your son to your family?
This is what it looks like when your son is shot and killed. I met Sawaidu Sanyan 3 years ago on the first anniversary of her son Sharif's death. Her grief today, just as raw as the day we met.
The only thing to pray for my son, and that's what I did. I pray for him to go peacefully.
When people see that someone's been shot or killed, they see a face. Do you think they understand how devastating it is for the family?
I think people know, because when they see me, you could see their faces. You could see the sorrow that they have for me.
2 people are being treated in hospital after a double shooting in Moss Side in Manchester.
A teenage boy is fighting for his life after being stabbed.
Whenever Moss Side is in the news, it's often for the wrong reasons. While the community has worked to change perceptions, its troubled past is something it can't get away from.
I was raised here in Moss Side. To me, this is an amazing community. It's where my neighbours became my family. But it's also where friends died, leaving their families devastated and unable to recover.
Jesse has died with no justice. And we are here suffering just the same.
Jesse James was the first person that I knew to not make it to adulthood, but not the last. He was innocent, caught in the crossfire of Moss Side's gang warfare. His death, a catalyst for change. We were 15. He was 15. It's been 18 years. Moss Side has changed, but there is still a cycle of young people dying. Kimoy and I grew up here. He supported families who've lost their kids to these streets.
Things like this are normalised, where we lose people and, right, okay. Whereas when we lost Jesse, that was like a shockwave to the community, right? We need to get out there, we need to campaign, we need to do this. Because it's happened since. The community has felt it's like it happens here. They give up because, and rightly so, they feel sometimes that the support isn't there. Why was the support not put in place in the first place? So you're dealing with families who have given up on the system, who've given up on everything.
5 months ago, Kimoy's nephew, Prince, was stabbed and killed days before his 18th birthday. It's the first time Kimoy is speaking publicly about it.
My niece rang me and she said he's in hospital, they're trying to work on him. So I said, right, okay, just keep me updated, I'm on my way back. And I got another call. I knew it from that next call. I knew it, yeah. I knew it from that next call. And she just said it. She said he's gone. I couldn't breathe, I just couldn't speak. I just broke from then. Just broke from then, yeah.
Javal Morgan was stabbed at a Caribbean Carnival after party in 2022. On the anniversary of his death, his family came to leave flowers and celebrate his short life.
They say time is a healer, but whoever said that is a liar. Because with every day that passes is another day that you don't get to see your child. So if anything, you learn to deal with it better, but the grief worsens.
Knife crime is happening across the country. Vicky believes these incidents are a direct result of more than a decade of cuts to youth services.
This is the generation where the government cut all the funding for the youth clubs and everything like that for the kids, and this is what they've grown into. They need to put more into these young kids so they don't feel like the streets is the only option for them.
In the northwest, spending in youth services has fallen by more than 70%. The people I've spoken to say the issue is complex. There is no consensus on why this is happening or what can be done to stop it.
I saw a young man that I didn't know, I didn't think I knew him, getting stabbed with some sort of sword.
Akemia Minor runs the charity 8-4 Youth. She witnessed Javel's murder and has been supporting the mums of the young people who've died.
Police have renewed their appeal for witnesses to a double murder at the weekend.
Sharif Tall was gunned down during a lockdown party. We visited the car park where he was killed.
And he was right here, wasn't he?
Yeah. But this is another one, similarly to Javel. None of the perpetrators were from Manchester. None of them were from our side, but obviously because it happened here, we still get that image. Yeah, we're the ones that experience the trauma, we're the ones that drive past every day and know that this happened, we're the ones that get tarnished by the media, and that has a massive impact on how a lot of young people in this community perceive themselves. So as youth workers, you're constantly trying to sort of build resilience against the system that you shouldn't have to build resilience against, because you should be caring for them.
For Akemia and many others, these streets tell a story of pain and trauma.
Would you say that Moss Side as a community is traumatised?
Yeah, definitely. It's historical trauma, it's generational trauma, so everyone's holding this pain, and there's no healing, it's ongoing, there's new layers of devastation constantly. No one's really acknowledging the trauma that is happening in communities where there's high visibility of violence. And the impact on young people is huge, the impact on the community is huge, and we just live with it.
Akemia says while the community is working hard so that no one else loses their life, it's something you just can't predict.
While you're hoping there's not another incident, you're waiting for the next one. And especially when it's not us that's doing it, it's not that we can interrupt it because we don't know it's going to happen. If it was young people from around here that had an issue with each other, we can work on that, we can work with it. But if it's young people coming in, what can we do?
It's been 4 years since Sawaidu's son Sharif was killed. While there are negative perceptions of the area, she says the support from the community is what keeps her going, and knowing that people miss her son too.
He'll never be forgotten in this community, no way. As you could see the tree, every year the kids will come to celebrate, put flowers, put candles. He was special.
Well, Tasha joins us in the studio now. Tasha, you grew up in Moss Side. Tell us why it's so important for you to tell this story.
Well, Mel, people often tell me that they fear the area, but actually Moss Side is no more dangerous than any other area part of Greater Manchester. And if we look at the knife crime stats, they're actually lower in Moss Side than other parts, most parts of Greater Manchester. Now, when you look at youth violence and knife crime, it's a UK-wide issue, but when it happens in Moss Side, it hits harder because there's that history of violence from the 80s and 90s. Now, I've seen my friends bury their loved ones and I've been with them while they grieved. For me, it's so important because we have to try and remember those that we've lost, but I also have to remember that while I get to have a career and have a family, these young people will never get that, and it's just not right.
Tasha, one of the issues raised in your report was the cuts to youth services. You've asked the council for a response to that. What do they say?
Yeah, so we spoke to Manchester City Council and they say they've put in £500,000 directly into youth services to help. They also told us that against the backdrop of funding cuts and pressures, they're determined to improve support for children and young people.
And Tasha, you'll be bringing us more on this later this week, won't you?
Yes, we've got a second report and it's all about the history of the violence in Moss Side, what's happening and what the young people who live there currently hope for the future.
Well, we look forward to that. Thank you so much, Tasha.
Well, next tonight, and speculation on the guilt of Lucy Letby and possible future appeals has been upsetting for the families of victims, according to a solicitor representing them.
Letby was convicted of the murders of 7 babies and the attempted murders of 7 others when she worked at the Countess of Chester Hospital.
Tamlin Bolton will represent 6 families at a public inquiry to examine events at the hospital. That begins in Liverpool tomorrow.
Fundamentally, Lucy Letby has been found guilty of those crimes. She's exhausted her appeals process. Those that have been privy to the full remit of evidence, including the families, the jurors and the judges in the Court of Appeal, have maintained her guilt. So anything outside of that is purely speculation.
Well, Letby's new lawyer, Mark MacDonald, says he believes there is a strong case that the nurse is innocent. He spoke to me a little earlier and told me why he's considering a fresh appeal.
And the difficulty with this case is that it mirrors the other 3 nurses that are currently serving life in prison for very similar offences. And when I say mirrors the case, all 4 cases of nurses that have been convicted in this way were run in a particular way by the prosecution, based upon hypotheticals, hindsight, and no direct evidence that the nurse in particular did any harm to any patients. No one saw anything. But the other issue is this bold assertion in relation to a spike in deaths, or that she was always on duty when an unexplained occurrence caused. And without actually having a full statistical analysis of that, comparing with a number of neonatal other units in relation particularly to spikes, it's very hard to make that bold assertion, I would say.
But it wasn't just the statistical evidence or the spike in deaths or even, you know, the evidence about the insulin that convicted Letby. There was a whole catalogue of evidence that was put to the jury. What is it that you have your doubts about?
OK, so let's look at the evidence that actually convicted her. Was the statistical assertion without any form of expert evidence in relation to a spike and in relation to unexplained deaths. But also there was expert evidence that was presented to the jury, predominantly by one expert who was a retired paediatrician. And that evidence and the science that he presented to the jury, we say, was unreliable.
But 2 separate juries have spent months listening to the evidence. Both have come back with those resounding guilty verdicts. Some of the most senior judges in the country have even looked at this case in great detail at the High Court. They too concluded the conviction was safe.
Every miscarriage of justice that's taken place, of which there's been many in the United Kingdom over the last 4 decades, there's been a jury that have spent months and have convicted, and there's been a Court of Appeal that have considered from the most senior judges and upheld that conviction, and yet later we have found out that that person is innocent.
There are many people, not least the families of the babies involved, who are horrified and outraged that the validity of these convictions is now being questioned.
I can understand that, and I have every sympathy, complete sympathy. But my role is to represent somebody who I think may be potentially a miscarriage of justice.
Look, the inquiry is due to start tomorrow. I know you want the terms of reference changed for that inquiry. What exactly are you calling for?
Well, here's the problem. The terms of reference were drafted on the presumption of guilt. Therefore, she was guilty, and how was this allowed to happen? We want them to extend beyond that, because one of our concerns was the neonatal unit at this time was not fit for purpose, or we say there was problems with that neonatal unit. So there's a whole plethora of issues in relation to that unit we feel that need to be looked at, and we're concerned that it's not going to be looked at.
OK, Mark, we'll have to leave it there. Mark
Thank
McDonald, thank you so much for talking to us.
Well, in other news today, a special service has taken place in Liverpool to thank all the emergency services who responded to the riots. City leaders and members of the community gathered at Liverpool Parish Church to mark National 999 Day. But today's event was a chance to personally say thank you.
This year, we've made it a special event because so many of our emergency services put themselves into danger in Southport, in the Strand just at the end here, Spellow Lane and Broome Terrace. We wanted to give them a special thanks to say that the people of Liverpool stand behind them.
Sport now, and a famous face returns to management in Blackpool. Hello, Chris.
Yeah, he's been in the dugout more than 1,000 times. Now Manchester United legend Steve Bruce has taken the reins at Blackpool. It's club number 12 of his managerial career, and he's been speaking to David Chisnell.
Yes, welcome to Blackpool's training ground at the start of the first full week under a new era at the club with Steve Bruce as the head coach here. Delighted to say that the man himself joins us now. Steve, you've had 2 years out of the game. You're back in football. How much have you missed it? What's it like being back?
Oh, I've missed it, and that's why I'm back, basically. It was something which I thought, maybe am I going to call it a day, but I quickly know that retirement wasn't for me just yet.
Part of that break was because you wanted to have a break as well. So
I
why was that, and why did you?
I never had a break in something like 46 years. So I think it was important that I had a little bit of time away, and I really enjoyed the first year. And then that itch on a Saturday to running the team, the everyday involvement of what management is, I just thought, it's time to go and do something again. I had to have some purpose. I'm delighted to be here and raring to go.
You got the job last week. Has it been kind of all guns blazing, all systems go?
To be fair, they've had 3 days off, which was already previously arranged before I got here. So a nice start that they've had 3 days off. So yeah, this week is now all the build up to the weekend, and let's see if we can get our season up and running again.
Now, you're no stranger to the Northwest, obviously, with your time at Manchester United, Wigan as well. Yeah. Is Blackpool a town, an area that you've known of as well?
Well, I've been here with the kids a few times. Everybody's been to Blackpool, haven't they? I have to say, I've lived in the Midlands and I'm just back into the Northwest now, really, over the last 5-6 years. So I know a little bit about the town. In fact, going back in the days, I made me first ever appearance in the Football League against Blackpool when I was at Gillingham as a kid. So it was a long, long time ago.
So what are the ambitions here? Obviously, we're early days into League One, but this club, it wasn't that long ago that it was, had a brief spell in the Premier League as well. I know, obviously, the fans have lofty ambitions. What are your ambitions?
Well, our ambitions are the same, that we want to try and get back into the Championship. We've got a squad, I think, capable of taking us where we want to get to. It's up to me now to get the best out of the lads. They've had a difficult start. Arguably, that's why I'm here. We'll see what we can do. I know it's a long, long season ahead, but I do believe we can get to where we want to be.
Okay, Steve, thanks so much for joining us today. Good luck with the future, and that future begins at home on Saturday against Exeter.
Well, there was no action for Blackpool or most of our clubs at the weekend due to the international break, but Crewe took the opportunity to jump up the League Two table with a 1-0 win over Morecambe. Elsewhere, Accrington lost, while Barrow were held to a 1-1 draw by Swindon. Well, now to the sad football news from the weekend and the death of Ron Yates, Liverpool's captain during the Bill Shankly era, had been living with Alzheimer's disease up to his death at the age of 86. At Anfield, flags were flown at half-mast for a man who helped drag the club up from the second division and led them to greatness.
Happiest man in football, Ron Yates, as he received the cup.
Before 1965, no Liverpool captain had ever lifted the FA Cup, let alone rehearsed what to say to the Queen.
The first words out of my mouth was, he must be very tired. And I don't know why I said it, and I said, yes, I am. I'm absolutely knackered. I couldn't believe what I'd said to the Queen of England, and my face went the same colour as the jersey.
Hailed as the Colossus by manager Bill Shankly, Ron Yates became the cornerstone on which the Liverpool dynasty was built.
Well, Ronnie Yates, his coming, along with Ian St John around the same time, was the very beginning of Liverpool's rise. And they did more for the rise than anybody else. Yates at the back, St John at the front.
The former abattoir worker who'd eat steaks every match day first joined the Anfield herd in '61 when they were a second division club, inspired by Shankly's vision.
They were building a trophy room, and it had only 2 trophy cabinets. And he went, I want the trophy cabinets all round this room. And somebody said, well, we haven't got trophies for to put in them. He says, I'll get them. Don't worry about that.
Oh, that was a very determined tackle by Yates.
Within 6 months of signing, this determined centre-half was made captain. They were promoted in his first season and English champions in '64 and '66. But his proudest moments came at Wembley, where Liverpool overcame Leeds to make history.
Third time lucky for Liverpool. The cup at their third attempt.
Ron celebrated lifting the cup by sinking a pint of milk. The city of Liverpool had a more sparkling reception planned.
Out of Lime Street Station came Ron Yates and his jubilant teammates. The skipper carried the cup. Heaven knows how many thousands cheered their heroes along the route to the town hall.
These roaring fans nicknamed him Rowdy Yates after Clint Eastwood's character in TV show Rawhide. Liverpool's leading man led them to their first European campaigns, taking them to the final of the Cup Winners' Cup. And he was the first to wear the famous all-red kit.
You know, boots on, the red kit on for the first time, came down the stairs, ran out the pitch, and Shank says, you look 7 foot tall, Ron. And we started playing in a red kit, and it was a lucky kit for us.
And it's through his leg, it's a goal, and it's Yates. Yates is in fact the scorer.
Ron captained Liverpool 416 times. Only Steven Gerrard has worn the armband more. After leaving Liverpool in '71, he became player-manager at Tranmere, played in America and in non-league football with Formby, and his football brain was put to good use.
Manager Yates.
Wrexham. A good interruption from Ron Yates, yes.
Kenny Dalglish recruited Ron as Liverpool's chief scout, a role he held for 20 years, recommending key signings like Sami Hyypiä. Shankly once declared that with Yates in defence, Liverpool could play with comedian Arthur Askey in goal. Ron's Reds brought smiles back to Anfield audiences, where they'd stay for decades to come. The great Ron Yates, an incredible career and a real gentleman as well.
It seems it. What a life. Thank you, Chris. Time for the weather now. Here's Emma.
Mom, wet wipes, toilet or bin?
Bin. Why?
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello there, very good evening to you. Well, we were between weather systems today. It wasn't a great start. Brighter skies across the Isle of Man, which then actually spread eastwards to the rest of our patch. But it's just a short-lived fine period, and things are turning colder into tomorrow. We've got blustery showers inbound with some sunny spells as well, but it will turn calmer on Friday. So let me talk you through that detail. We have a cold front which is going to drop southwards tonight into tomorrow, introducing this blast of really bitter Arctic air behind it, so we'll notice that temperatures fall away during the course of tomorrow. By Friday, however, another ridge of high pressure building in. That's going to pinch off that cold northerly airflow and turn things a little bit calmer as well. It's going to suppress those showers and the winds too. Rewinding though to the next few hours, we have cloud and patchy rain sinking southwards, as you can see here, starting to get quite gusty and blustery through the Irish Sea, gusts of 30-35 miles an hour, increasing to 40 miles an hour through the early hours of the morning. And this is the last night that we're going to see those temperatures into double figures for the next few nights. Into tomorrow then, the sun is up 6:36, sets at 7:38. Lovely picture there from the weekend. And into tomorrow morning, it's a bit of a miserable start to the day. It's not very pleasant at all. Squally winds, this rain dropping southwards, to be replaced by clearer, brighter skies with some showers, but these will be blustery once again. Still gusts of 40 miles an hour around the showers and in exposure, and temperatures falling from 16 to 14 Celsius as the day wears on. Feeling cooler then tomorrow. Into tomorrow, still some showers around, hail and thunder likely for both Tuesday and Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Cleaned up well.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Yeah, so sad to hear the news about Ron Yates. Like, what a legacy that he's left behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved the bit about him downing the milk to celebrate.
Right, and having a steak every day.
Yeah.
I'm sure the nutritionists for today would have something to say about that, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.